Good morning, everyone, and thank you for joining the Clown EDC Coffee with Colleen chat. Today, we're fortunate to be joined by Kareen Borders, the Executive Director of West Sound STEM Network, and Tanner Zahrt, a Program Director for College Success Foundation. Really excited to hear about all the exciting and good work they're doing in our community. They're going to talk about the PEP Prep program and various other initiatives that they're working on. You may notice I'm not Colleen. She's on her way here. Some technical difficulties this morning, but she'll be joining here shortly. Before we kick off, just a few housekeeping items. If you could remain on mute throughout the presentation, just helps avoid background noise. And then the meeting is recording, so it'll be up on our website later today. If you have any questions throughout, feel free to throw them in the chat and we'll ask them for you, or raise your hand and we'll go ahead and call on you. With that being said, go ahead and get started, Kareen and Tanner. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, good morning, Mitch. Good morning, everybody. I'm Kareen Borders, Executive Director of West Sound STEM Network, and Tanner with College Success Foundation is with me. And Tanner, are you projecting the slides or are they coming from EDC? Or Mitch, what is the normal protocol for that?
However you prefer. Most people prefer to run the slides themselves.
Yeah, Tanner, if you're able to.
Yeah, that would be important. Try.
Sorry about that.
That's all right. Tanner, I think, Mitch, I think you need to make us a co-host, right? To be able to do that.
Let's see here.
You could do share screen.
All right, you should be able to share screen now.
Awesome. Tanner, are you able to project the slides?
Let me give it a shot here.
All
Sorry,
right.
I was trying to get there. Give me a sec.
Oh, no worries. Well, I'll go ahead and start while my partner there is projecting the slides. So just we're super honored and thrilled to be able to share. Colleen and the EDC are part of our network, so we're just really happy. I can recognize some of you on here, so it's good to see you. So PrEP, we're going to share a little bit about what's called PrEP, and that stands for Peninsula Readiness and Enrollment Pathways. And it's a regional effort. It's driven by local needs. Started in 2023, we conducted a listening tour. West Sound STEM Network conducted a listening tour across the region. And the region meaning Kitsap Peninsula and Olympic Peninsula. Jefferson and Clallam, Kitsap, and a little bit of Pierce. So we go down to the Gig Harbor area. And then a little bit of Mason County as well. So we did a listening tour. We met with students and families and tribal leaders, community partners, school districts, industry. And what we heard is reflected in PrEP's direction. It reflects local voices and local strengths and local aspirations. I'm really pleased that it's not like a top-down or one organization approach. It's a movement of partners working together, really to ensure that every student has a clear and supported pathway after high school. The funding comes from the Gates Foundation, and it is a 3-year program. It's part of what's called the Horizons Partnership. So the Gates Foundation 2 years ago launched what's called Limitless and Horizons, so 2 different partnerships. The Limitless Partnership was awarded to 25 organizations across the state, and it's practitioner-based, focused on the ground needs. Awesome, thanks. It is, and so those are 4-year grants that were awarded across the state. At the same time, they also launched what's called Horizons, and that's a bigger multi-year program designed to increase post-secondary enrollment. And 4 of those were awarded, and we are one of the 4, so our region is one of the 4. And awesome, thanks so much. Thanks, Tanner. So it is one of the 4 partnerships and includes partners like West Sound STEM Network. So Perfect. And if you could just go to the next, I think it's the, let's see, let me go here. So
Sorry.
that's okay. No, this
Don't quit my day job, I guess.
is you are awesome at both jobs. Maybe slide 2, Tanner.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
give me
you're
a sec.
perfect. So perfect. That is perfect. Um,
Oh my gosh, I'm sorry.
it's
I can't get
okay.
out of there.
I think we
Sorry.
have all been there with technology and with presentations.
I have it on PowerPoint I can pull up if that's easier, Tanner.
Yeah, if you don't mind,
Yeah, I don't mind.
I'm having issues over here with my screen sharing ability.
It's that kind of a morning, I think, and I think everybody can definitely relate.
Okay.
Thank you, Mitch. If you
No
could, that'd be
problem.
awesome. Um, so Horizons Partnership, it's funded. Thank you. We're on slide 2. Funded by the Gates Foundation. Thank you so much. And the focus again is increasing post-secondary enrollment, and that means 2-year technical college, 4-year, 2-year to 4-year apprenticeships. We are entering year 2 of 3. The lead partners, West Sound STEM Network, College Success Foundation, Peninsula College, Western Washington on the Peninsula. There are 15 school districts that are part of it, community partners. So some of the partners that you're actually on the call today, on the Zoom today, so that's awesome. 4 focus areas, so advising, financial aid completion, college and career exploration, and dual credit. And then we also added a 5th, a high school to college transition, because we know that that is really, really important. And then the quote from Susie, I think from President Dr. Susie Ames is really nice. Just summary, it's support for college prep on steroids. None of the things that we're doing are brand new, but all together, we're putting our arms around every high school junior and senior in our community and walking them through the whole college exploration, college funding, and college experience. If you could go to slide 3, that would be great. And then a little bit about why this matters. You can see here again, you can see like the breadth of it. So these are the school districts or tribal schools that are part of the prep project. Let's see, the quote from Dr. Sabah Ranhawa is really great as well. This grant has been a powerful catalyst for shared purpose and coordinated action. And so really the idea is creating systemic change, but also doing on the ground and not doing isolated programs. So really working and partnering and walking alongside of our partners for coordinated systemic action with things that we know make a difference in supporting youth to have access to post-secondary. And when I say walking alongside, really partnering, everybody, the local leaders, they know their communities the best. The local community members know their communities the best. And so every, community is different with some shared needs. So trying to really wrap our arms around all of that. If you go to slide 4. Thanks so much. So the backbone in the coalition. So West Sound STEM Network is what's called the backbone agency. So we're the lead applicant. It doesn't mean that we're in charge of everything. It means that we help with coordination and support of the whole entire project. We also do some on the ground advising, coordination of college and career visits, and then coordinating with all of our partners and the Gates Foundation. College Success Foundation, deeply embedded in schools with student advising, also doing, and Tanner will talk about some of this, so I won't take all of that from him, but they have a very important role in partnership in this grant. Higher education partners, Peninsula College and Western Washington on the Peninsula, and then again 15 school districts, and then also community partners, workforce partners. So it's a pretty broad and expansive coalition of partners working together. And if you could go to slide 5. This just a little bit, if you don't know West Sound STEM, this is not prep, this slide, this is actually West Sound STEM Network. So I just wanted to share a little bit about that if you're like, what is West Sound STEM Network? So it is a coalition of partners, K-12, business, industry, workforce, tribal organizations, small nonprofits, large industry, small industry, library systems, our ESD, Olympic Educational Service District 114, and lots of entities coming together to build pathways all the way from early learning to workforce. So West Sound STEM, our vision, we just underwent some strategic planning. It's that every youth has access to pursue the future of their hope after high school. So whether that is military, a certificate, an apprenticeship, a 2-year degree, a 4-year degree, that we support pathways that empower youth to achieve their dreams. And so that's just a little bit, that's just a little bit about the organizations and the vision of West Sound STEM Network. You could go to slide 6.
It's a lot of organizations.
It is, right? And we're really fortunate, Mitch, in that everybody plays well together. Like everybody is, I think, focused on how can I, as a leader or my organization, work together with others to really support pathways for youth. And it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool being in these meetings.
It's great. All right.
Thanks. All right, I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Tanner.
All right, so I'll just talk through some of the kind of on the ground, pieces that we've been doing for the prep program. So my role with the project is that I manage and I liaise with the different schools and partners in Colleen, Jefferson County. So I'll just walk you through some of the strategies and programming that we've done. We're now entering year 2 of the 3-year grant. So I'll just kind of walk you through some of those steps. So the key strategies that we are really focusing on for this project long term, one of the big pieces of this project is sustainability, to build something that's going to continue for years and decades to come. One of those key projects is working on data utilization between school districts and post-secondary. For example, one of the projects that we're working with Peninsula College is essentially an enrollment dashboard where school districts and counselors will be able to collaborate with the staff at PC to monitor and supervise students as they go through that process. And so that's been one of the key projects that we've been working on, and we will continue this year. And then capacity building. So we've been really working with our counselors and site administrators, and Kareen and her team at West Sound STEM is wonderful about building different opportunities for people to engage in professional development. So we have our partner meeting, and then Kareen is planning some other events later this September. We yesterday just had our fall counselor workshop where, in the I-5 corridor, counselors at schools typically get to go to these larger events at the beginning of the year, where they get to collaborate and work together and share information. And unfortunately, being as remote as we are, we sometimes, get the short end of the stick. Counselors will still attend, virtual workshop, but it's never the same, right? So we replicated that by offering a watch party at Peninsula College yesterday, where Keith and Bree Olson from our team facilitated a workshop, and we had a pretty good representation from all our districts. So hoping to continue to support that level of networking between the schools, helping to build those relationships. If you jump to the next slide. And then, the key goals of our project are listed out here. And then we kind of listed out some of our highlights of our progress there. So, FAFSA completion is one of our key indicators of success, growing the amount of students who are applying for financial aid, expanding the amount of dual credit. And if you're unaware what dual credit means, dual credit is when a student's in high school, they're also earning college credit. And that can be earned through multiple ways. They can do that through what are called CTE. When I was in high school, we called those vocational courses, right? So CTE courses, college and the high school, where a student would typically take college courses inside the high school, like UW and the high school partners with the college, and then AP courses, which you may all be familiar, and then obviously our students who attend Running Start. So hoping to continue that because we found that that is one of the major ways that students get a leg up is by earning college credit in high school. And then growing post-secondary enrollment, that's ensuring that the amount of students who register in the spring, increasing the amount of students who actually enroll in the fall. Because College Success Foundation, one of the key things that we do through our college service model is we try to avoid what's called the summer melt, where students will, in the spring, they register, they have all these great plans, but because they are not familiar with the process of how these work, we have students who come to fall at PC and they said, well, I registered, but they don't do all the other steps because they don't have anyone to guide them through that process. And then there's life happens. So through our college service model, which I'll talk a little bit about, we hope to make sure that we have students coming through on the back end. And then strengthening knowledge of post-secondary pathways. So that is, we're called the College Success Foundation, but we really do try to provide students with a robust spectrum of knowledge about what's available to them after high school. And when we say college success, obviously, we understand, myself as someone who is a community college dropout, understands that there are a lot of different pathways to success, right? And it's not always a clean trajectory for many of our students. And so we try to provide them with knowledge about everything from and connect them with different community groups. If a student is interested in the military or in a vocational apprenticeship, obviously our metrics are tied to college enrollment, but we are always there to provide students with whatever they need. And then we're advisors. We are always hoping to provide more to one-to-one support. And then, like I said, sustaining partnerships. And here are some of our big highlights. Our goal was to we increased the FAFSA completion in our region from 37% to 48% in 1 year, which is, if you're in the FAFSA world, is a huge amount of growth. And that comes off of the backs of, and I'm not going to claim that credit. That's Krista, and that over on the Kitsap Peninsula, that's everyone across the region working together, and that's really become a coordinated effort between Peninsula College, all of our other partners. So that was a huge growth. We now have a 2-year DSA and MOU, which means for 2 years, we're going to have robust data sharing between our different school districts. We provided over 500 one-to-one advising meetings, and then we took 450 plus students on career trips. And then in the spring, we had our It's Not Too Late campaign, where we take students who typically think that there's no way I'm going to college, right? They've just checked out. And we focus on those students in March through June to say, it's not too late. You can go to Peninsula College. You can go to another technical school, and to provide those students who think that maybe there's no hope for them to go to college, that support. So that increased enrollment that way. And then we were very proud of our growth of 73%. We set a goal of 70% of our students who enrolled in college services at Peninsula College would enroll this fall. And I'm proud to say we're at 73%. And that number actually will probably go up because we have students who sometimes will come in at the last minute. So we're very proud of that growth. If you want to jump to the, and then just a couple of different quotes here from our staff and from, I believe this might be from Krista, just talking about the importance of engaging with family, if you see that on the screen. And then the coach, one of our coaches, talked about the importance of college and career field trips. This is one of the things that people underplay as an important tool. And one of the things, our students are going to a college university trip next week. And we specifically try to focus on our college-bound students and first-gen students. And a lot of what we found is that one of the most important things for students to imagine that they can be successful in a place like that is to actually go to the place. If you're a student who lives in Nia Bay, who maybe has never even left the Olympic Peninsula, the thought of going to a big 4-year school is fairly daunting. And what we try to do is we try to demystify that. We try to just create, these are just people, and give them those connecting experiences. So that's one of the most important parts of our project. You
Great.
jump to the next.
It
Yeah.
looks like Colleen has joined and had her hand up. Did you have a comment, Colleen? Oh, you're on mute.
Yes, I noticed on the last slide that it referenced that you signed 14 DSAs and I can't remember MOUs. And so I asked in the chat as well, what is a DSA? And Kareen answered it was a data sharing agreement.
Yeah, I apologize for that. You know, us in education, we love our alphabet and our acronyms, and we sometimes forget to talk like humans. I apologize for that. But yeah, data sharing agreements, and those are really key and important, Colleen. I'm glad you reminded me to bring that up because, like we talked about earlier, that PC enrollment dashboard that allows us to share information not only with our college success team, but between Peninsula College and other community colleges, hopefully in the future, and the high school teams so that we can help support those students as they're on track to graduate and really help guide them into the right pathways. So that those data sharing agreements are, I mean, and as far as like building out sustainable growth for the, you know, for this project and beyond is probably one of the most important things.
Were there any school districts that didn't sign the data sharing agreement that are part of the program?
No, it's one of the conditions of being in the project is the completion of the MOU and the DSA.
Okay, and so are any school districts not part of the project?
There are a handful on the Olympic Peninsula. I don't know if I want to share them out, but you know, we still support a lot of those students, even if they're not directly serviced. You know, we still offer outreach and we invite those schools to some of our events because you know we can't sometimes directly service those students, but we can always if we hold events at and we offer like workshops in the evenings and we offer you know like we have the college fair. We always open those up to even schools that aren't directly part of the project.
And so what kind of feedback did you get from those school districts that didn't join the project? Was it just a capacity issue that prevented them from participating?
I can speak.
I would probably pitch that to Kareen. I think she would understand that part a little better.
Okay.
Yeah, I can speak to a couple of that. So we had a couple of districts not participate. I can speak to actually really good reasons for a couple. So when the grant application came out, school districts could only be part of one application. And so there were lots of applications, as you can imagine, for this. And so a couple of our school districts elected to be part of a different application, and it was a very friendly we even actually wrote in our application that we know like these school districts are part of this other one. We work with this other entity. They're one of our network members. Like it's all good. We're going to support them if they get it. They're going to support us. I think it might be capacity as well. But as
Did that
said,
did that other group receive any funding?
no.
Yeah, so they chose the wrong the wrong team to join.
Well, yeah, I don't know that I would, Colleen, you just cracked me up. I don't know that I would.
I'll go ahead and say it.
Yeah, but we really work closely with all of our partners and support. And it was very transparent and clear. Like we all knew that we were doing this. We all were like, we're going to be rooting for each other. So hopefully that answered your question.
Yes, it does. Thanks.
All right. And then just going back to some of what, you know, I alluded to around some of the college and career exploration, you know, that's one of the key things that we do. We do that through multiple ways. We do that through workshops where we partner with teachers and we provide that in the school. We do that through events during the school day. So we provide sometimes lunchtime events, advising events, and we do after school events. And then we do field trips. And so some of the career exploration trips that we did last year, so the Puget Sound, you know, I'll list it out some of them there. I won't list them all out. And then some advising events where we did, sometimes these happen during the school day, sometimes these happen during the evening, and then all of our college visits and career site visits.
Colin, but I guess he's out.
And
Yeah.
so that's where I feel like we've made a lot of progress last year. And then this year, it's going to be even more robust because last year we started mid-year. So we really weren't doing this programming up until like January, February, and we really pulled off quite a bit in a very short period of time. So this year we've got a full 9 months of the school year. We're starting off strong. We have our college visits coming up next week, and then we have the Olympic College and Career Fair. So, you know, our advisors are going to be very, very busy. So this is one of the key things that is a big indicator of success for our students. Jump to the next one. Any questions on that, everybody, so far on the college career? You know, the career site visit is where Mitch and the EDC and Colleen has been a huge help. We've started to build out those networks, and when we come close to it, I plan on sending out invites to our partners around career site visits, and we'll continue to build out that network of partnership between everyone involved with the EDC and the chamber and all these other organizations. So thank you to Mitch. He's been a huge help, and Colleen has been a huge help in that area. So thank you. And then these are a couple of quotes from our different principals, Mark over at Quilcene, and then Rhonda over at Quileute Tribal. And one of the things that I wanted to highlight with Mark's comment is the nature of being a rural school and just having access to those different exposures. You know, our students, you know, I grew up in a very small community in Nevada, and, you know, I never saw any of these types of, you know, experiences growing up, and you know, I think if I would have had something as the College Success Foundation, my experience in college would have been much more smooth. And then Rhonda's comment here about the personalized attention. You know, the advisors and you know, if they weren't busy helping students, I would have dragged one of them on here. They're really special people, and when I try to hire people, I really hire people for not just like the skills they have, but their life story. You know, their lived experience. And we have a couple people on here from Scrim School District that can speak to, you know, some of the work that our advisors do. But what's special about them is that they have the time. Counselors are just so busy. They don't have the time, especially every year we ask more and more of them. Counselors sometimes just don't have the time to sit down with a student and hold their hand while they go through a college application. And for someone who's a generation student, the thought of looking at a college application or even an apprenticeship application is just so daunting. And to just have a caring adult there that you've bonded with over a year is a huge game changer. So that caring adult is one of the most important aspects of our model. So I think, and then some more quotes here from other people in our project. And then, or is this one? Oh, this was my last slide. And then, you know, like Kareen called out the regional collaboration piece, so important. You know, we're going to continue to do these amazing workshops. You know, the power of building out these networks. You know, I'll bring a perfect example. You know, sometimes they're directly related to what we do, but sometimes what's cool about my job is that I get to just have good ideas and help people. And I'm like, oh, I know that person's doing this and this person's doing this. So, for example, I was talking to the folks at Crescent, and then I was talking to the people at Port Angeles High School, and they're like, oh, we're going to utilize this framework for this course about college readiness. I'm like, oh, well, I know they're doing that over there. And you connect those two people, you know? And so that's what's great about my job is I get to be a connector, and I get to just have those great kind of brainstorming conversations that are kind of give you a lot of juice to do this work. And then from the Central Kitsap School District, you know, Decision Day signing and other great events like that really celebrate people's growth as students in coming out of high school. So you have the Decision Day, and I know at Port Angeles High School and other schools, we do Senior Signing Day, and just supporting the celebration of students' achievements that maybe they wouldn't usually feel like they're being celebrated. And just providing students the ability to be seen and supported by a caring adult who's really going to be like, what do you want to do? How can I help you? And just be there day in, day out to support them on that journey. So I think the next one, I'm going to kick back to Kareen, correct? And then, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. It's really exciting to hear just about the excitement of kids and, you know, thinking about those quotes that one of the things that I love is that it's building a regional culture where every pathway is visible and validated. So I'm super excited about that. Just a little bit of context to kind of bring us back to from the granular to the bigger context. It's a pretty big region, as you saw from the map earlier. So there's some rural geography, there's some resource isolation. There are schools of varying sizes that are part of this. So from less than 100 to almost 2,500 students with, diverse needs. And, again, as I mentioned earlier, focus on expanding post-secondary programs. School districts have different pressures on school budgets. So declining enrollment in some regions can lead to declining school budgets, which then impacts the amount of staffing that is available to support youth. And I want to state, like, every school district that we work with is so committed and goes so far above and beyond to support their students. So we are just thrilled to be able to walk alongside and to support. Some unique characteristics, we have some state tribal education compact schools, two-year colleges working as major players in workforce training, industry partners and community-based partners and workforce organizations. There's also lots of willing volunteers in the community. So we work, Skillmation is part of this project. And they work, they're just amazing, work with just a whole slew of volunteers. So lots of different kinds of organizations, working together to celebrate the unique characteristics of each of the, local regions, and to, walk alongside and support local needs. So just really excited about that. Thank you. The next slide. I think Tanner's going to talk about the year 2. So as I mentioned, we're in year 2 of 3. So we just began year 2. Tanner's going to talk about the strategies, and then I can close it out.
Cool. Yeah, and this is why I like my job, because I get to do the fun, it's like being like a cruise director for like college and career exploration. It's pretty fun. Uh, so, for example, college and career pathway exploration. So the bread and butter that are campus tours. So we're gonna do we do at least 2 university trips per advisor, and then we also do very special trips with Peninsula College, where we bring students onto campus. And as I mentioned, we have an embedded college coach at Peninsula College, Marlene Goatsey. And Marlene works with the team there to really create a curated experience for the students, where they really get to see what the college is really about. And then we're also talking about a spring application day with Lee Jewett from Transfer Services. So we really try to create a really wraparound experience for those students, mostly focused on juniors and seniors, but also opened up to some lower grades. And then career exploration, we're talking with Mitch and other partners about creating some very tailored career visits. And that's why this year I really want to partner with our CTE teachers and our different teachers to really focus on partnering with them to provide really engaging career exploration. So we were talking at Lincoln High School, the alternative school in Port Angeles, and they have their hospitality program. So they really want to visit, somewhere where they can learn as much as they can about ecotourism and about all those different pieces. So we've been focusing on working with Seven Cedars and different hospitality and ecotourism people to build that out. And then, so that's in the works. Financial aid outreach. So that goes into classrooms. Those are one-to-one, those are workshops. Those are one-to-one advising appointments. This October, we're doing an after-school event in the evening for families. It's called Financial Aid and Food Trucks, where we feed families, we bring them onto campus. And now with the new FAFSA application, luckily, it used to be that you had to do that in about 2 different settings, right? You'd have to set up the account, and then you'd have to go back and finish it 3 days later. Luckily now a family can sit down and do that from start to finish in about an hour. And we're going to create events where we can come alongside the families who have maybe never done that application and really support them. Strength and support for high school to college transition. So we have a coordinated effort between the United Way, Peninsula College, and our staff, where during the It's Not Too Late campaign and other and throughout the year, we support students as they go through the college application or the post-secondary pathway. College services. So we now have a full-time coach at Peninsula College. We'll have our first full cohort. She's kicking off. She had a special orientation just for our students last week in partnership with the Passport program at PC. So, a giant orientation at PC, this is a perfect example of what we try to provide. It can be so overwhelming for some students if you're coming from a really small community. So what we did is we created a very small, like I guess what you'd call is just a very curated small experience for these students. And then we're gonna do another event tomorrow. It's called the Kick Off the Jitters event, where students come and they have lunch and there's like, what are you freaking out about? Let's help you. Um, and then we have an affinity group at the college where it's like a club and a social group where students come, they study, we provide them lunch. And then Marlene is she really does a great job of meeting students where they're at. Are you the type of student who thrives in a big environment you where you can have a lot of social interaction? Do you need one-to-one support? So we really try to give a spectrum of support that way. And then increase access to Western Washington University on the Peninsula. That's going to be done um, through different programming. I think Kareen could probably speak a little more to that one than I can. And then the strengthening the partnerships, which I already mentioned through our different collaborative plant meetings, and then the data visualization and collaboration tools. One key thing that I forgot to leave off is I've been sending, and I know Mitch sent out an invite, the College and Career Fair week that we're doing. We're really trying to provide a really robust spectrum of opportunities for students so they can really understand what's out there on the peninsula. I think our ultimate goal is to have students learn on the peninsula, live and have jobs, and start families on the peninsula. We don't want our students to leave. We want our students to stay and have sustainable living wages, and part of that is providing them knowledge of pathways and support. So yeah, that's all I have, and then I'll kick it back to Kareen to finish up.
Thanks. Our email addresses are up there, and Colleen, if you want us to do Q&A, we can do that. But I'll put my email address also in chat. But I just want to really emphasize that the prep it's more than a program. It's a regional movement. It's built from local voice and needs. Again, starting with that listening tour. Everything we've done has been shaped by what students, families, educators, workforce leaders, community organizations tell us they need the most. It's possible because of all those organizations and individuals that you saw on those earlier slides. And the grant, we're super grateful for the grant. So it's given us a strong foundation, but the real strength is in the relationships and networks. We also, by the way, we didn't mention this, we get a lot of support from the Gates Foundation and their technical assistants. They have technical assistance partners for all four awardee organizations for Horizons. And so there's a lot of behind the scenes support that we receive from the Gates Foundation and the technical assistance partners. I think that is a strength, and the real strength, though, are the relationships within this region. We know that this is going to last beyond the funding, and changing what's possible for students and walk alongside as they build their futures. So, Colleen would love to answer any questions that
Yeah,
you have.
I have several. Typical me. So first I want to say I had to do a FAFSA application for my kids, and boy, was that miserable. Just trying to remember what the heck was the password and where did I save that, and started from there. But so I completely understand the frustration that kids and their parents would have, especially if, they're just not used to grabbing all the financial information that you have to respond to one of those things. So, and, I think of myself as fairly capable. So, it drove me crazy. So I heard it's supposedly better, but then I also heard things didn't roll out like they expected it to. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I know Tanner will, having worked with the advisors on the ground, have some thoughts on that. Colleen, I will absolutely echo what you said. I helped both of my own children fill those out. And I also thought that I could navigate things like that. And it was extremely frustrating for me, and I got stuck. And so there are a lot of places where kids and families could get stuck. Um, within that, when it was revised and rolled out last year, there were many snags and bumps, and there was a delayed rollout. I'm hearing that it is better this year. I think the power of having advisors work one-on-one, and I want to state that it's not prep or college success or West Sound advisors coming in and just like independently doing their own thing. It's at the request and under the direction of the school district. So the counselor may say, hey, could you work with these 5 families? They kind of have a more complex situation. And so the advisors that are embedded can then call the FAFSA hotline technical assistance and spend like an hour on the phone, kind of walking through where exactly did we get stuck. Tanner, what are you hearing from your advisors as far as like, is it a little bit better this year?
I don't want to jinx it, but it is supposedly better. And it's open now. You know, they have beta testing open now, and it's going to roll out officially on October 1st. So, you know, a lot of the same kinks that were last year, have been worked out. One of the key exciting things is that, I don't know if you remember, Colleen, but there used to be where you had to create you remember you have your FSA ID, and they're changing the
Mhm.
name of it now. I can't remember. I think it's called your government aid ID. I can't remember the name, but you had to create that ID and then wait 3 days to start the application.
Yeah.
And honestly, that was the killer for us, right? And it used to be we couldn't get that started until the parent put their information in. And honestly, with a lot of our students, because our families, the parents are working, they're in shift work. They can't just bounce on the phone and be like, "What's my social?" So the nice thing about the new FAFSA is that that's at the end. All the stuff about the parents is at the end. And so now we can sit down during the school day or whenever with the student and really crank out 90% of it, and then work with the families at the very end to get the parent piece done.
Okay.
And then no longer do parents have to put in their social. That was a big thing
Okay.
for a lot of families, like,
Okay.
distrust of the government or not really feeling secure about the website being like hacked. So that's gone away. Students still need to
Okay.
put their social, but parents do. So everything I'm hearing right now on the ground is that it's much easier. And that's why we really want to do events like these financial aid and food trucks where you just have someone there to do it with you who's like a professional, who can really, I know myself, and I've done this alongside with parents. I mean, multiple advanced degrees, and I struggle. I can't imagine someone who hasn't done this and doesn't live and breathe this doing it. So that's where we really try to break down those barriers for families and give them an even playing field for success.
And I've heard from friends and others that where the parents were divorced, trying to get both sets of parents to fill it out, especially if they're not communicating well, it just can be an absolute disaster, or it
Right.
certainly is a huge delay. So I'm
It
glad to
is,
hear
yeah.
they're making some of the process a bit easier.
Yeah, and I mean,
Yes.
that's what comes down to having those advisors in the schools. And Krista over on the Kitsap Peninsula is just having, because counselors really don't have the time. They don't have the time often to make those calls to follow up one to one to one to one to one to each student. They just have between all the other tasks on their plate. And so that's where it really is based on what the school asks us to do, we can provide that. And that's what's exciting about the program is it's not like we come in with a set program. I've listed off a lot of programming, but schools opt into those, right? And it's not where we say you have to do X, Y, and Z. It's saying here's our toolbox. What do you like in there? You can pull this one out. You can pull that one out. Do you need workshops? Do you need one-to-one advising? Do you need field trips? And we really try to provide that whole spectrum for every school because the teachers and the counselors and the principals, they know what they need. And that's what I think is cool about the project is we don't try to have a prescriptive approach.
Yeah. So, let's see, some questions about the percentage of completions of FAFSA. You said it went from 37 to 48% after your program began. And so first off, what's your goal? I'm sure it's not 100% because some kids absolutely are not interested in post-secondary education and they have other plans, or the family's so wealthy, don't have that problem around here too often, but that they know that they are not going to be applying, or maybe they have a 4-year scholarship or whatever that might be. So what is your goal for having FAFSA forms filled out?
Green, do you want me to take that one or do you want me to?
Yeah, go ahead and then I can
Okay.
add on to that.
So I was like I felt like the kid in high school. I'm like, okay, I gotta pull up my notes because I can't, we have all these metrics in year over year. So, and Green can correct me, but I pulled it up here on my computer. So our goal by 26-27 is a 60% increase. And then this year the goal is 53%.
Okay.
And so we're already, and what I want to do is I want to give all of the kudos to our friends at the United Way, Peninsula College, Krista at, on the Kitsap Peninsula, and our advisors. It really was us all coordinating, working together that made that happen. And so we're really going to work and that's why we're starting early on with these like financial aid and outreach in the fall so that we can really push up those numbers. Because what we find is like oftentimes, we want families to come to those evening events that are not, we want everyone to come, but sometimes the students who are the most in need don't come to those events, right?
Yeah.
Because they're working, they're not engaged in the school system. They're, sometimes they don't honestly like school. Like when I was in high
Yeah.
school, if you told me, I'm like, I got to go back to school at night. No way. That was me in high school. So, but what it does is it allows us to focus on those students who need the most support. So if we do this really robust outreach in the fall, it whittles down the number of students who we need to help so that by winter, we have a really good idea by talking to the counselors of who needs what. And our goal is by the end of the year, we know exactly what every senior wants to do. If they don't complete the FAFSA, it's because we've tried about 20 times to get them to do it. So yeah, that's our goal by 26-27 is
So
that
have you guys tracked, or can you track each student that does fill out a FAFSA? And if if your starting point was 37% and the average FAFSA provided a student, say, $10,000. I don't know what it is, and then you have increased it by this much, that's equal to this school district bringing in this much money from the federal government for, education. And here's how much we spent on this program. So here's the obvious return on investment just from this FAFSA element. Could you track that?
Colleen, that is an excellent question when we look at ROI. I am not aware of being able to track individual student awards unless they self-report. So there are some things that if students self-report.
Could you do an average? Like we know an average FAFSA is typically this amount.
Right.
And so just to estimate it, I mean, it'd be great to have an actual count, but.
Yeah, we probably could. There are some things that we can track. So for example, the Washington State Opportunity Scholarship, and I want to tag back to some comments or questions that you made a second ago. Sometimes you're right, families do think they make too much money, but sometimes they're surprised to find out that they don't make too much money to qualify. So the Washington State Opportunity Scholarship is an excellent example of that. It provides, I think it's 22,500. And the income threshold is higher than most need-based scholarships, but you have to complete a FAFSA to be able to apply for that. So a family might think that they make too much money for state or federal aid, but then they might qualify for these other things. The second thing is sometimes there's apprenticeship aid, but you have to fill out the FAFSA sometimes to get that. And then I also if a family thinks that they make too much money, sometimes there are things that happen within families, right? There might be, some estrangement or something that happens to where the student now can't count on that family aid, or there might be a family emergency. We actually had one case a couple of years ago where a family had saved for college and had it paid for, but then there was an emergency that was needed, those funds were needed. And so sometimes there are lots of things that are unanticipated that that the youth would benefit from filling out a FAFSA. But I really like, it would be wonderful to actually track dollar for dollar. That's intriguing, Colleen. I don't think we can do that right now, but
Okay.
which is something that would be intriguing.
It would be a
Yeah.
compelling statement to share with people. And if, you know, you were this leads into my next question. You talked about when this funding ends, the program will continue. You know, how do you envision that being able to continue if you can't pay for these people to help along with the process? I'm curious about that.
Yeah, great question there too, Colleen. Your questions are always so like right on. So couple of things. We are committed to look for other funding, so that's one thing. We're hoping that some of these practices become embedded within the school districts, and that also some of our organizations like Skillmation are walking alongside of College Success Foundation to be able then to help step in to some of those roles. So when we applied, we had some draft ideas of sustainability, and that is something in year one we worked on, and year two we're really going to beef up that sustainability plan. But those are some of those three things are kind of main foundations of sustainability. And we'll also find out too, it is just as important, my background is science, it's just as important to find out what doesn't work, right?
Yeah.
So
Sure.
if something isn't working, we shouldn't be doing it.
Yeah, sure. I think there was a comment or question in the chat. Do students have to be low income to get assistance from Lena?
Not for prep in general, so all students receive support, if that was the question. Certainly for like state and federal financial aid and for some need-based scholarships, they have different income thresholds. But for this project, no, they do not need to come from a low income community or background.
Because you're trying to just get every student in every school district to fill out a FAFSA. I mean, right? You're at least 60% regardless of their family's income.
Yeah, I think that we're trying to make sure that every student and family have the support to fill out a FAFSA. There may be reasons why they choose not to. But there are also a lot of reasons that they may not even think about that it could be useful. Like I said, there was some apprenticeship funding to provide like work boots and things like that, but they had to fill out the FAFSA to be able to do it. So even if they said, hey, I'm not, you know, I'm going into this trade or I'm going into this, I don't need to fill out a FAFSA. Well, sometimes there is extra support. So I think we want to make sure that every student and family knows what the opportunities are when they do fill out a FAFSA for funding. And that is regardless of income.
Thanks. Mitch, you had a question?
Yeah, I just wanted to again reiterate how thankful we are for the partnership with West Sound STEM Network and College Success Foundation. We're really thankful to be doing the things that we're doing with you. And then I wanted to just bring up the Olympic Peninsula College and Career Fair that's coming up next month. I know Tanner touched on it, but they are looking for employers to come up and set up a booth and talk to kids about pathways after high school. So it's going to be the 14th and the 15th. I dropped a flyer in there. If you want more information, feel free to reach out to me directly or Tanner, or I think there's another contact at College Success Foundation in the flyer you can reach out to. But yeah, again, thank you guys for the partnership.
No, thank you. You know, this is the key thing, I think, in understanding and leveraging the gifts of living in on the Olympic Peninsula are the relationships that we have as a community and how we, you know, and I think that's why I really like Kareen and our partnership with the West Sound STEM Network is they respect the and they appreciate the lived experiences of families and of businesses and you know what's and not having that kind of you know prescriptive approach or we you know, someone comes in and says, hey, here's how we fix everything on the Olympic Peninsula, you know, and like, let me tell you what you need to do. And that is 100% the total flip opposite. And that's what gets me excited about things like the College and Career Fair, where it's just saying, it's our job to open up the toolkit for kids. Here's the toolbox, kids. Here it is. Here are the people to talk to, you know, because I'm a big believer that if you give people the knowledge, you give them the tools, they're usually going to make the right decision. And I think that's our job, is just give people the tools and the knowledge to make the right decision.
So one last question for me anyway is, I know in this last legislative session, everyone took big cuts from the state. We took a 43% cut from our funding from the State Department of Commerce at the Clallam EDC. And I'm just wondering, I understand College Success Foundation had a reduction. Can you share a little bit about that and what the plans are going forward to try to continue the good work that you've been doing?
So yeah, as you mentioned, the College Success Foundation did unfortunately get impacted by the budget cuts from the state, like many public-private partnerships across the state. So what that has meant is that we have had to pull back our services in multiple regions. So now, you know, there were some regions across the water in Mount Vernon and Marysville and Bremerton that we can no longer support directly through advisors. So unfortunately, we've lost that staff. And so what we've done is we've realigned, and now we have our central regions where we are, and luckily because our funding is through the Gates Foundation and our partnership with West on STEM Network, we were not impacted directly. We were going to be losing our advisor, one of them, but the Gates Foundation and Kareen worked really hard to get additional funding to support that advisor at Port Angeles High School. But moving forward, we have a sustainable model at the College Success Foundation, and we're going to be working with Kareen to pursue those funding models for after year 3 and beyond. But as far as College Success Foundation, we're in a sustainable model right now, but we've had to get a lot leaner and smaller with plans, and we're working with some of our friends at the Gates Foundation and some other partners to look at how we can strategically build back. And one of the key things that we are looking at is our partnerships with the workforce, and how do we support students who want to pursue post-secondary, like short certificate training and vocational training. So there's some deep level conversations being done way above my pay grade level, so I'm not going to speak to them too much in detail. But you know, it's a great opportunity. Sometimes when you have all this change, it's a good time to find growth. So that's where I think the College Success Foundation is really excited to pursue those new areas.
Well, terrific. Good. I'm glad you guys are thinking about next steps, and I'm glad you're covered by the Gates Foundation funding. Lucky us. Okay, well, with that, it's 9:01, and I really appreciate you both joining us, Kareen and Tanner. You're doing exceptional work, important work, and it's important for our economy in Clallam and Jefferson counties. So keep it up, and we're looking forward to continuing to partner with you. And so this recording will be posted online later today. If you want to share it, it'll be on our website, the link with anyone else. And with that, once again, thank you and have a great day, everyone. Thanks so much.
Thank you all. Nice to see everyone.
Thank you.